Oh, will you look at this? Pennsylvania's in the yellow phase. Don't need this mask anymore. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Oh God, where's the mask? I got the COVID. I'm just kidding, friends. Totally here, totally safe, and totally healthy. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the NBA and NHL restart plans because they're going to be exciting and fun, and I just can't wait for July. Also, Dana White and his Fight Island. I know we spoke about this a few weeks ago, but it's happening. Fight Island is happening. We're going to talk about it. Stick with us, friends, because sports starts now. And welcome to the Sports Podcast with me, your host, Nick Drago. For those of you that are new to the show, I say this every week, but welcome. Very excited to have you here. We usually talk about all the sports news and information from the previous week and give you some insight into what to expect for the next week, month, year, etc. It's a lot of fun. So welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, find me on Soundcloud, YouTube, Twitter, and the Facebook. Just type in sports with Nick Drago. You can also find me or email me at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Now, before we continue, I usually don't get political on the show, but I will for a moment here. I just wanted to voice my support for all my friends out there supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. I just hope everybody stays safe and healthy. Wear your masks, please. I don't want to hear about you contracting the COVID. But this country was born on protests, and I feel as though your voices are finally being heard. So good luck, everybody, and stay safe, please. Now, it's about as political as we're going to get today. Maybe a little bit later on. Now, we can continue. This is like my 10th take of this, and I'm going to lose my mind if I mess it up again. So don't let me mess it up, friends, if you're listening to this. If not, then it means I mess up at some point, and I had to go back and do it again. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Did you know today is episode number 99 of this program? I've sat in this chair, spoken through this microphone, all the doodads, wires, and whatnot connected to this computer for 99 episodes. Pretty cool. In honor of that, we're going to be doing something special starting at episode 100 next week. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to stay tuned till the end of the program today to find out what that may be. So stick around for the end of the program. We will have a new background soon because my wife and I are definitely moving into a house. We closed July 8th, and by mid-August, you'll see a whole new background. Hopefully the lighting is good or I'm going to lose it. Anywho, what was that other thing I wanted to talk about? There's so many things sometimes. I had a good weekend. Do you guys have a fun weekend out there? We went up to Lake Wallenpaupack. Say that 5 times fast, right? And we were on a boat, and it was going fast, and I wore my nautical theme pashmina Afghan. Any Lonely Island fans out there? All right. So let's talk sports. Now, no, nothing has yet to return except for UFC, and yeah, we're going to talk about that. But I want to start with hockey because hockey, they were the first ones to come out with a plan. The plan is made. They just haven't executed it yet. So that we know for sure they're coming back right. They're going right to a playoff. They don't know where, and they don't know how they're going to do all the safety protocols. That stuff's being hammered down right now. But there's going to be a 5-game qualifying round, a best of 5 series between the bottom 8 team, not the bottom 8, but the 8 teams that qualified, right? The top four teams in each conference are going to play in a round robin tournament to determine how they're going to be seeded. So for the East, that includes the Bruins, Lightning, Capitals, and Flyers. And for the West, it is the Blues, Avalanche, Golden Knights, and the Stars. So they'll play in a round robin to determine where their seed's going to be. Then you have the qualifying round, in which you'll have for the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins playing the Montreal Canadiens, the Hurricanes and the Rangers, the Islanders and the Panthers, and the Maple Leafs taking on the Blue Jackets. For the West, you'll have the Oilers taking on the Blackhawks, the Predators and the Coyotes, the Flames taking on the Canucks taking on the Wild, and the Flames taking on the Jets. So a lot of teams here that wouldn't normally be in the playoffs. Islanders, the Rangers, the Blackhawks, Coyotes, who were actually kind of close at one point. They're all in. And it should be exciting, should be interesting. You know, some of these Canadian teams that are on the border every year. I'd like, let's see what happens. This could be fun. This could be a fun little tournament. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, there's no specific details yet on all of that stuff. NBA, however, not only have they approved a plan, but they got their stuff together. So July 31st is the expected return. They're going to have a 22-team tournament. So they're going to have an eight game, I guess, tournament, whatever you want to call it, to determine what the seeding is going to be for the playoffs. And you'll have 22 teams from there. All games will be played at the Walt Disney World Resort near Orlando, Florida, which is, they have a campus there. They're going to have all the players are going to live there. They're going to have the game. I think there are like 3 arenas they can play at. So that should be exciting. So who are the 22 teams? For the East, you have the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, 76ers, Nets, Magic, and Warriors. I mean Wizards. Washington Wizards. For the West, you have the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Jazz, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Trailblazers, Pelicans, Kings, Spurs, and Suns. No, the Warriors are pretty bad this year. They're not getting it. But again, just like I said with hockey, some of these teams like the Suns, the Kings are going to be in the playoffs this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I think with basketball, you know, hockey always has a tendency of, you know, anything can happen. Basketball, not as much. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work, because I feel like you're just going to have, as usual, the bad teams losing to the good teams. And for those teams that aren't going to be in the playoffs, there are going to be some organized team activities of sorts for the rest of the group. So I have no idea what that means, but probably nothing too crazy. And then you have the draft lottery, which is now set for August 25th, and the draft for October 15th. So this is what I find interesting. So they're anticipating that by August 25th, that's when the seeding, at that point, they'll know the seeds in order to do the draft lottery, or at least have a determination of what the draft's going to look like. And then by October 15th, we'll have our champion, by the sound of it. So, yeah, that should be... should be good. I don't know. I feel bad for some of the college players that, you know, didn't get to complete their conference tournaments or play in the NCAA tournament. That normally, you know, right about now is when we'd be finding out what team they're going to go play for, or we'd have an idea of the lottery. And realistically, we'd have a Stanley Cup champion. The NBA playoffs would be coming to an end right about now. None of that's happened yet. So some of these guys who are either coming out of college or they're preparing to go to the NBA, they don't know if they're going to be drafted or not, and they're basically just going to have to wait around till October 15th to find out. So there are some implications there for NCAA. Very, very curious. Another group that this benefits are those friends of ours out there that are injured. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being two of them. So Durant, you know, had an Achilles tear during his stint with the Warriors last postseason, held him out for the rest of the playoffs, and Warriors didn't win the championship, as you saw. However, after he signed with the Nets and everything, he expected he wasn't going to play this year, but he has been cleared for returning. And so is Kyrie. Kyrie went through an arthroscopic right shoulder surgery in February. Both players said they will not be coming back, however. So the Nets had a chance to make a run, but it looks like it's not going to happen. Their two biggest players will be riding the bench, and I know people are angry about that, but I think this is a smart move. As far as the shoulder surgery goes, I'm not sure how in-depth Kyrie Irving's surgery was, but if he wants to rest it and be healthy and perfect for next year, that's totally fine. For Kevin Durant, an Achilles rupture. you want to be very careful coming back too early because you don't want to re-rupture that tendon. Then you have to basically start at square one all over again. I don't think anybody wants that. He's making the right choice. I'm putting my physical therapy hat on here. For those who don't know, I am a doctor of physical therapy by day, and by night, I guess I do this. Yeah, it's a smart move for him to sit out and just wait, be totally healthy for next year, and then lead the Nets to glory that next year. Dana White announces that UFC Fight Island is happening. What does that even mean? So the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, they've purchased a private island, I believe in the Pacific, and they're going to set up the ring or octagon right on the shore, right on the beach, so that you can watch some international dudes beat the snot out of each other. It's just a very interesting concept. So we're going to have our first Fight Island event on July 11th. The card has not been announced yet, so we don't know who will be fighting. Interesting. You know, I happened to catch some of the UFC matches this past weekend, and it's somewhat intimate, you know, without fans in the stands, none of the glitz and the glam. It's just two people, two men or two women out there beating the snot out of one of another. Losing it, friends. Totally losing it. It's fine. We're fine. Let's move on. This Mortal Kombat Fight Island of Death that Dana White's coming up with here. Totally into it. I'm very curious to see how it goes. So good luck. Oklahoma State men's basketball program was hit with some fines this weekend. So their coach, Lamont Evans, was sentenced to 3 months in prison last year for accepting bribes from managers and financial advisors in exchange for connecting them with players. Said that he received upwards of $22,000 in bribes from two financial advisors. So obviously he's no longer with the team. But on top of that, the NCAA announced that Oklahoma State is placed on a 3-year probation. They've been fined $10,000 plus 1% of the men's basketball budget, and its scholarship total was reduced by 3 for the next three seasons. So Oklahoma State was not expected to make the NCAA tournament this year, but usually are contender-ish. They're not one of the bigger schools for basketball, but their name you'll recognize, and every couple of years or so, they're in the tournament. I don't think they've been in the postseason for like 4 years now. Baseball. We got to get into baseball here. These guys cannot figure it out. We're at a point where the two sides aren't even talking. So just to get you up to speed, in case you weren't already aware, the league can't really make much money right now, even if games continue, because they're not selling out the stands. So they can't afford to pay all of their players because they have no money to pay them. The players aren't going to pay for less salary than they're worth, and so they're refusing to step onto the field. And what makes all this much worse is next year there's supposed to be a new CBA, and so if they don't figure things out now and things only get worse, it's possible we don't have baseball this year or next year. What I will say is the league is losing $75 million every day that they are not out there playing, and that just sucks. $75 million, man. There was a report earlier from this weekend. I said we were going to go just a little bit more political here. Torrey Hunter was in a recent interview and talked about the fact that there was a point in time where he wanted to play for the Boston Red Sox. He liked the organization, but everywhere he went, he asked for a no trade clause. And the reason why is that fans in Boston used to hurl some pretty negative racial slurs his way while he was out there. Specifically in the interview, he mentioned the N-word. And so because of that, Torrey refused to play for Boston. Now listen, I'm from the Northeast. I know here in Philly, New York, I'm from New York, Boston, it's quite normal for the fans to be loud and proud of their teams. Outside of that, I don't see that as much in other states. Sorry. We're just nuts here in the Northeast, nuts about our sports. I haven't seen anything like that at a baseball game, somebody yelling, a racial slur at a player. But I do believe it happened. Most Boston fans I know are classy people. They're nice. They're friendly. And they'll probably say that I'm more likely to say something nasty to players at baseball games. I've gotten in trouble once or twice, but never for saying something like that. I prefer to use the term bum. Or, I don't know, what else do I say? I say you suck a lot. They're used to hearing that. Especially when the Orioles come to town. Sorry, I couldn't help it. But yeah, it's a shame Torrey Hunter always wanted to play for Boston. I, for one, as a Yankees fan, I'm glad he never played there, because 5-time All-Star like that is definitely not somebody I'd want playing in Beantown. All right, I did promise you I'd tell you what happens in the next few episodes. So here's where we're going to go. 2 things. First off, you see how high energy I am. There's a monster sitting in my fridge right now that I've been waiting for a good enough excuse to drink before I go out and do an episode. Next week's going to be the week. I'm going to get Monster sugar high and do one of these shows, and hopefully I'm not awake all night when I do it. Maybe I'll do it in the morning so I can rush out some energy. It's not like I have any sports this weekend anyway. So that's 1. But 2, for the next 25 episodes, I'm going to go through the top 25 moments in sports history. There's a lot. It really took some whittling down. Now, I'm not going to tell you what they all are. You're going to have to tune in each week to find out. But I will give you a sneak peek for next week. The sports moment in history is considered by many, or at the time was considered, the greatest game ever played. That can mean a lot of things. So good luck finding that out. We'll talk about it next week. And that's all the time I have for today. Like I said, I've recorded this like 400 times, and so I think this was the right one. Fingers crossed I don't mess it up in the last few minutes here. Special thanks, as usual, to Johanna Drago. She is the content designer, logo designer, and editor of this podcast. She's also my wife, and I love her. The music you hear is a song called Golden Sunrise by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found in the show notes. Special thanks, as usual, to Johanna Drago. To Mary Kay and Gary Albert, who listen every single week, and I very much appreciate it. Joe Calabro, Jorge Pajares, the whole gang, all those folks who like to listen to me. They're all there. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening in. If you want to speak to me directly, because who wouldn't, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. That is my email. So, yeah, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. And was there anything else I wanted to say? Of course there is. Find me on SoundCloud, Twitter, YouTube, and the Facebook. Just type in Sports with Nick Drago. That's me. You can like, share, Twitter at me, tweet, comment, and all that other fun stuff people like to do. If you didn't catch last week's episode, please do, because it's hilarious. Hannah and I talked about our favorite and least favorite NHL mascots, and oh my god, Harvey the Hound. That dude is scary. Was he the worst? I don't know. You're going to have to go back and find out. So highly recommend our last episode if you haven't watched it already. With that, friends, I'm going to go to sleep. So thank you again for joining me. Always a pleasure. And of course, caw-caw!